So hello, if you haven't met me yet, my name's Kim. I'm on the organizing committee. If you were at Seattle the last 2 years, I was there too. My hair was also pink, so pretty memorable. So I'm going to be here for the lightning talk, which there were so many lightning talks that we got to theme this one. This is the automation edition. And we're going to also hear more automation later on today. So to start us off, and these are lightning, they're going to go quick. There will hopefully be time for questions at the end of the three. We're going to start with Megan Holtorf.
Still morning, everyone. I'm Megan Holtorf. I work for the Center for Outcomes Research and Education over at Providence. I want to thank David for basically setting the agenda for today. That was great. So today I'm going to talk about GitHub actions for automated email updates. So first, we'll get to some code, but I want to share a quick story about my running club. So when our club first started, the year is irrelevant, but we had a voicemail service. So like getting movie times from your local theater, you'd call and you'd find out when the next run was. But we weren't Luddites, so we moved on pretty quickly. When the internet gave us a way to keep everybody on the internet, we moved to Yahoo groups. Pretty soon, you can imagine, the reply-alls were flying, the unsubscribes were hitting fast. So we moved on to Facebook. It was hip, it was cool. So were we, so we thought. The algorithms changed over time. The posts got buried in news feeds, and soon we realized we were attracting a very specific demographic. But the one thing that we always had was a calendar. So instead of doubling our work, what if we could just use this one source to send an email to everyone when they needed the updates? That's easier said than done. Who wants to check a calendar every 2 hours, send an email to all of their friends? So GitHub Actions. With GitHub Actions, we can pull all the calendar appointments together in one place, and we can send them out to everyone's email. To do this, first I had to gather up everybody's emails, or at least a few early adopters. A distribution list with Google Groups is great for this, but whatever tool you use for email distributions is great. Then I could extract the calendar information with the iCal package. It makes it great, easy to extract the events from almost any public calendar. But I also didn't want to send every update every day. So I wanted to filter that down to only those that were happening in the next 2 days or 10 days, and also create a trigger for that email, so they weren't going out every single day. To make it easier for folks, I wanted to categorize those events so that those that were coming up soon or had recently changed were at the top of their inbox. Then I could use Quarto and the Blastula package to format my email and all those events in HTML. That's really pretty, right? You'd read that. When I created the Google group, I made an email to send all of those appointments via Quarto. So I put that email address and the password into a GitHub secret, and then I can send that out automatically every morning with GitHub Actions. So this is where the magic happens. I can schedule the code to run every single morning. It'll check for that trigger event. If it finds that trigger event, an event happening in the next 2 days, it'll send out an email to everybody's inbox. So it took a bit of work to set that up, but now even if I sleep late, no one's gonna miss an email update, and I can kind of forget about it, and it happens automatically. So you might be asking yourself, what does this mean for me? I don't like running, I don't care. So this was a pretty simple experiment. It taught me skills that I could take back to my day job. So one, that's supposed to have actions. Use your friends and your close colleagues to test out new ideas. Be flexible and adaptable. The world will change, so should your workflows. Automation is great, but it's not foolproof, and it fails. You'll find out at 10:30 in the morning when you don't get the email you expect. Lastly, find low-risk learning opportunities and keep trying new things. This exercise gave me a chance to test out new tools in a safe place without the pressure of deadlines or client expectations. So you can find all the code here. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Lindsay Dickey with more automation.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm also an analyst with Core. I'll be talking about dynamic report creation with R Markdown. And I used to live in Portland and I moved to Colorado Springs. So this is a picture of a trail near my house. This presentation is motivated by a survey project we did with a client who had a large provider network. The client wanted us to analyze their survey data for their use and also make a report for each of their providers that took the survey, along with the providers' trends and comparisons to the overall network. I think customized report generation is a common task of analysts across many different disciplines, and using R Markdown with parameters worked very well for my needs in reporting, automating this reporting. So I thought I'd present on this topic today. For this presentation, I created a fictitious data set around the scenario of a survey taken by residents across a large set of neighborhoods funded by a grant. The ask by the grant funder was to prepare custom reports on each neighborhood, include a custom logo from the neighborhood, some numbers about response rates, present the neighborhood's data alongside comparison with the overall result. And the funder wants some common intro methodology text. There should be the funder's branding and colors in the report, and the report needs to be sent by email and be readable by anyone with standard computer software. So the solution, as I'm presenting today, is to use parameterized reporting with R Markdown. For this, I used two files. One file prepared all the data that would be sent to the reporting file, including aggregating by the neighborhood and overall levels. And the R Markdown document, I used output type of Word document. And in that file, I subsetted the prepared data, added graphs, custom images, links, etc. A PDF type of output also works fine for this report. However, I didn't know LaTeX and I didn't know about the types package yet. So I found a Word document was easier to style for myself. To connect the two files, you call the render function at the end of the data preparation file. The name of the neighborhood is sent through the value of the parameter argument of the render function. And the render function in R Markdown also allows you to pass the parent environment from the data preparation file to the R Markdown file, meaning all of your carefully cleaned and crafted data objects from your data preparation file are available to be used in the report file without re-importing them, which was useful for me. You can use a for loop or function to send a whole batch of parameter values or neighborhood names sequentially to the report file, or you can call each one at a time, such as when you're testing your process. To achieve a more polished report, the YAML header of the R Markdown file accepts a template for Word documents. So you can achieve a color and font theme much more easily than if you're coding it into your R Markdown file. Anything you want to use, such as your style template or images you're importing, should be saved in your workspace or in the folder where your two files are. I'm not going to go through the render function arguments, but just noting that I used R Markdown instead of Quarto for this example because I wanted to pass the parent frame environment, and I don't think Quarto render function has that argument. So you'd have to re-import your import all the data sets that you intend to use in your R Markdown or in your Quarto file instead of passing them directly from your data preparation file. This is the syntax from my YAML header in the R Markdown file. YAMLs, as most people know, are very syntax particular and tab spacing particular. So if you have errors, it's a good idea to check your YAML code first. The YAML includes the parameter you declared in your render argument, but the value you're passing will override the default written into your YAML. Here I have Greenwood. That'll be overridden by whatever you pass from the render function. The YAML is also where you specify your output and tell your file which style template you want to use. Here mine's just called style template.docx. And here's an example of how my reports turned out. I have a custom image and some response rate information, and then charts showing each neighborhood compared to the overall neighborhood set. Here's some references I used making my reports, and this is the code for the reports if you want to follow along. Thank you to Megan for hosting the code on her Git site.
Next up, we have Frank Aragona.
Everyone, I'm Frank. I'm going to speak about how we can translate Quarto and R Markdown documents at scale. So really extracting text from Markdown documents and then applying translation APIs to that text. So the goal, let's imagine that we have some sort of Quarto or R Markdown report. It might have code that produces things like figures and tables and then text, of course. So we're going to need, if we want to translate that text, we're going to need a way to isolate it and prevent translating the code chunks themselves. Because like code chunks can't be translated because they won't be able to run. They need to be written in English, right? So the steps to automatically translate, we're going to extract the text from our Quarto or our Markdown document, apply a translation model to that text, and then we can finally like knit that text back together and then recreate the report. So the first part, extracting the text, the light parser R package is really great for this. It'll take your Quarto file and break it into different components and put it into a data frame. So we can see this tibble at the bottom here. It's taking my Quarto file and it's breaking it into different parts. So like I have a YAML header, the inline stands for text, there's headings, and then code blocks down here. So I can really easily identify what is text versus what is code. So then once I can find my text, I can isolate it and use whatever translation API that I want to apply to that text. So Google has some packages out there to do this, but I would recommend looking through Hugging Face. Hugging Face is a platform that hosts open source machine learning and AI models. So there's a ton of things that you can do beyond translation here and a ton of things that you can apply to this text. And I have a package down here that basically wraps Hugging Face and pulls in some of their translation APIs. And so you can see as a result down here, this data frame, all the inline components are now translated into Spanish instead of English. So pretty great. I have my text translated. And then I can take that data frame and use the light parser package again to combine it back into a Quarto file. So they have this really simple function here. You'll take that data frame and then output the file name that you want it to be. So yeah, we're basically knitting together that translated data frame and making a whole new Quarto file with that. So pretty easy. The result here is that I have one document that's in English on the left and then other one that automatically output to Spanish on the right. And you can see down here the code chunks remain in English, which is really great. They can still output their code seamlessly without any issue. So there's a lot of things that you can do beyond just translating text. The Hugging Face has tons of models, like I mentioned. So I think it'd be cool to explore something like text to speech. So you could have some sort of app in like your Quarto website that might have like a button that plays an audio file. So it'd be really great for somebody who might be visually impaired to press that button and hear the text. Or things like text summarization. There's a ton of models to do that. So maybe you have a Quarto document that's pretty gigantic and you want to summarize that text and give somebody a high level summary of it. You could apply that model to this text and hand it over to them. And other things, maybe like alt text for plots, like ggplots, that might be a great use case here. So yeah, I hope this gets people thinking about how you can break apart Quarto files and apply different models to that text. And yeah, I have links to my blog. I think this QR code links to my blog directly, and then the presentation repo if you are interested. So yeah, thanks.
Now it's on. No, it's not on. Now it's on. There we go. So we do have some time for some questions. And we have multiple mics in the room now. Wow.
Hi, question for regarding using a Word document template when outputting from RMD. I just wanted to ask, do you have, how well does it actually maintain the Word document template beyond the, text family or font sizes and such? Because I have tried using Word document templates outside Word, and they can be really hard to work with sometimes. So I'm just curious how well that works.
I haven't tested it very thoroughly. It preserved, I think if you set your styles in your text in the Word document, I think it preserved that fairly well. It doesn't know if you have multiple paragraphs in your Quarto or Markdown document. I think it's not sure when to switch into body text, I've found. I also had difficulty getting alignment of like image and headers to not be left justified. And I had some weird workarounds when I was doing this for a work project to make it look center justified. So I think there's some difficulty getting it to play nicely, but it is better than coding it maybe in our Markdown document.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Excuse me. I had a question for Frank about when you're breaking up the Quarto document, how is that going to handle inline code? And in particular, if you're doing like conditional language in your inline code?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I haven't tested that, but I have thought about it. It is something that needs to be tested. Yeah, the inline code, I'm not sure how it would handle it because like the curly brackets, right, that would identify the inline code. I'm sure there's a way to like identify that within that inline text in the data frame. But yeah, that is a great point. Something I got to look into. Thanks.
But if no one has a burning question they must ask right now, then this keeps us perfectly on time. So let's thank our lightning speakers.